All right, we are live and in living color. It is July 22nd, 2023. And how is everybody this morning? I am here. It's Larsen Halleck in my new apartment with the beautiful Daphne Halleck. And the stream is go. My new apartment is absolutely luxurious in that it has actual rooms. And the bathroom is right next to my desk. I have a kitchen that has more than one burner on the range. We opened up with Yarilo by the Russian metal band Arkona, because we're going to be talking a bit about Russia later on. And let me tell you, it was a bit of a debate deciding what music to open up with. It was either going to be Arkona or it was going to be I've Got You Under My Skin, the duet between Lady Gaga and Tony Bennett. Tony Bennett, of course, died just the other day. And I must say, as a New Jersey boy, I am a fan. I do like the crooners, as we have discussed on many occasions. As it has been said that no matter what race or creed you are, if you live in New York, you're a little bit Jewish. Kind of the same thing in New Jersey. Doesn't matter what you are, you're slightly Italian, regrettably. Nah, just kidding. Just kidding. I have nothing against the good people of Italy. Uh, yes. And actually, fun fact when she was first looking at my dating profile, the lovely Daphne Kruger assumed that I was Italian. I am not. And it's not the first time I've been assumed to be some swarthy med either. You know what I think it is? They see, dark hair, dark eyes, and at first, your first glance is what I am, partially Chinese. But then they realize, well, he can't be Chinese. He's like tall and masculine and has a gigantic penis. So they kind of switch gears and they assume that I am some swarthy med. I am not, but I have nothing but respect for our Mediterranean chums. Anyway, let's get to the news. We got some positives and we got some negatives. There were a few major historical anniversaries this past week, both positive and negative. Positive was the 54th anniversary of the moon landing, which I am slowly starting to think was America's peak as a nation, and it's all been kind of downhill ever since. I have posited that to several people I've spoken to. Got some comments here. Daphne says, we have natural light in abundance. Yes, we sure do. I am no longer like Movie Bob, and that I live in a dank basement. Now, to be fair, uh, I was never like Movie Bob, and that's I never like had sewage runoff going to my floor and like literally had roots and trees growing out of my tiles. I'm not a disgusting, disheveled slob like Robert J. Chipman of Boston, Massachusetts. But yes, much like him, I did live in a basement. Also, I did not have the great wall of diabetes blocking my windows. I tried to maximize natural light there. But yes, now here, I have actual light. And it is great. Comments here. Also, Sipang Messiah says that I cock slapped him with Arkona. The term is turkey slap, good sir. And yes, I did. Because we're going to be talking about Russia in a little bit. Pony Throat says, Gex today, Bubsy tomorrow. Well, actually, sir, Bubsy was yesterday. There already were two Bubsy remakes for God knows what reason. And yeah, Gex is also coming back. They also managed to get Dana Gould back. I don't even know if Dana Gould is alive or not. Maybe they just got like archival voice clips of him. But yeah, I have a lot to say about wiggity wiggity cartoon mascots in a little bit, but we'll get to that in a little while. Cpunk Messiah says that Arkona is awesome live. Yes, so they are. Arkona is, of course, named after the fortress, the last stand of Russian paganism during the Northern Crusades, and impotently longing for days gone by is a major theme in Russian history. I say as if I don't do the same thing in American history, but we'll get to that in a little while. But yeah, the moon landing. It was good stuff. And naturally, the spiritual peasants had to whine about it because, of course, they did. And I'm just going to say it. If you're one of those people who has a knee jerk hatred of the space program, if your first reaction to man walking on another celestial body is, derp, why don't we spend this money on social entitlements? You are a spiritual peasant. Okay? It's not about money, it's not about social class or ethnicity or race or anything. It's about having a soul that is living and aspires to greater things versus a soul that is dead. Higher man has aspirations. Higher man looks to the stars and conquers new worlds. Not that because it is easy, but because it is had. As our amphetamine popping starlet humping President JFK would have put it. Spiritual plebeians look at wealth and potential and only dream of filling the land with pestilential slums and billions of mediocre chuds, Matt Iglesias. I don't think anybody in my audience is a spiritual peasant. And if you are, I'm going to have to ask you to politely leave. Give me 1 second. I'm going to coffee myself up here. Also, I have coasters now. I'm slowly civilizing myself. Like, look, Daddy, I'm using tablecloths and coasters, and I have windows. But, yeah, with regards to the spiritual peasantry, even they are still better than the people who think that the moon landing didn't happen at all. Those people are even lower than spiritual peasants. They're like spiritual hunter-gatherers or spiritual homeless people. Yes, I'm talking to that fat tub of shit Bart Sibrel. And yes, I do enjoy seeing the clip of Buzz Aldrin punching him in the face. With regards to the moon landing, I like how even the Soviet Union acknowledged that it was real as it was happening, and they even made postage stamps commemorating such a thing happening, because they respect science. And, the United States also gave great honors to Yuri Gagarin, the first man to go into space. Beyond the Soviet Union, multiple countries have verified the rover and the flag and the mirrored reflectors on the moon. China, Japan, and India have all verified that these things are there. All of those countries with billions of dollars of equipment verified the moon landing happened. But this triple-chinned cab driver cracked the code and figured out what the KGB couldn't. Oh wait, no, it would be the GRU, wouldn't it? If it's foreign intelligence. Forgive me, I'm not as knowledgeable about Moscow Center as I once was. Anyway, we all know the truth that Stanley Kubrick faked the moon landing, but Kubrick, being the insane perfectionist that he was, insisted that they shoot on location. Yes. Let's see what we have here in comments. Ponythroat says, coasters, or co-stars, manifest after marriage in the same way buboes happen after contracting the plague. Yes, I know. I'm losing my warrior ethos. I'm submitting to the longhouse because I'm using coasters and tablecloths. I'm sorry, I failed you all. Seapunk Messiah says he's a spiritual warrior. Well, yes, you certainly are, sir. The journey of spiritual warriordom is a never-ending one. We're constantly striving for greatness, never quite reaching it, but getting pretty damn close to it. And the fact that you're on the journey at all makes you much better than the chuds. So, you have my respect, sir. Yeah, but speaking of people who believe we never went to the moon, let's talk about the people who were too extreme even for them. Some interesting news came out about the flat earth people. If you hear cars driving outside, yeah, I apologize for that. You don't need to close the window, my darling. But yes, anyway, interesting news came out about the flat earth people. Namely, I finally got to see what it is they think exists beyond the ice wall. Now, before we get to that exactly, I do have to ask, there's one question I've always had about the flat earth people. Like, is Earth the only planet that's flat? If so, why is that the case? And if it's not, then why are the other planets flat too? If so, why do they appear to be not flat? It doesn't make sense to me, to be quite honest. Why is Earth the only flat planet? Yes, but I digress. The flat earthers apparently have a map of what they purport exists beyond what we think is the globe. Let's take a look. I have it on the stream right here. Let's see what we got. Yeah, here it is. I mean, I'm making it as small as I can so you can see it. All right, here we go. Yes. So this is apparently what's beyond the ice wall. And I'm not going to lie, this is a really cool design. I think you can make a really cool work of fiction out of this. And this could totally be the world map of a video game or a fantasy novel or some such like that. I mean, they got it all there. They got Mu, they got Lemuria, Atlantis. I respect the Lemuria representation because you got to pay props to Richard Sharp Shaver. Then once you get past the first ice wall, There's the land of the Norse gods and apparently the Egyptian gods as well. Presumably somewhere out there is, the land of the Seath, the Feywilds, perhaps the East Asian Shendao and Shinto gods as well. But then there's also the Abyssal Sea and the Scorched Wastelands. Who knows what kind of crazy shit's going on there? Somebody in the Twitter thread is claiming to have invented this as just a work of fiction for art's sake, but that person is full of NWO lies and chicanery. This is the real world map, damn you. Let's check out some comments if we have any. We do not. That's great. Yeah, I like how Odin exists beyond, or sorry, within the walls of Asgard. I mean, I guess it's just ice walls all the way down once you get to Asgard or whatever. The horizon is lying to you people. But yes, anyway, there's another anniversary I promised you, historical, and here it is. This past week was also the anniversary of the brutal murder of Tsar Nicholas II and his entire family. Why is this worth mentioning, you might ask? Because the tankies, the college campus communists, were openly celebrating it on the Twitters. Breaking news, a local New Jersey man who thought he hated communism a lot digs deep and finds a new layer of hatred he didn't even know was possible. Yep, they're literally doing the Virgin Chad meme of the cool Bolshevik executioners murdering the Soyjak royal family, the Soil family, if you will. To safeguard the revolution, yes, I'm in favor of this. Thumbs up emoji. As if any communist has ever had, like, the Chad jaw. They're spiteful mutants, people. Okay. With regards to the flat Earth map, Ponythroat says if you go far enough, you'll find the Final Fight universe. Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, obviously there's like the Super Mario universe is out there, the Legend of Zelda universe is there, Final Fantasy's out there, Secret of Mana, all that shit. If you go really, and then, somewhere kind of in between Asgard and like the Nubian, or like the Egyptian lands, there's like the THQ wrestling games that are there. Yeah, it's all the video games are there. In the flat Earth map. Ponythroat says, communism sucks so bad people simp for the Romanovs. Yes, they sure do. Well, I think it's mainly that people are not really down with brutally murdering children. Except for the tankies, of course. So says AFC Kyo, KYO. And this is a direct quote. They had a reason to do it. I wish they didn't. But the whites were approaching their location. And if they were alive, they would have had a figurehead for the counter-revolution. You don't understand, Larsen. They had to bayonet the children to death and then molest the queen's corpse, because if they wasted any time, the opposing enemy would have saved them. Yeah, it's worth pointing out that even the Soviet government vehemently rejected the actions of Peter Ermakov and the other executioners, not acknowledging the authenticity of the dead bodies until the Gorbachev years. General Zhukov, point blank looked Peter Ermakov in the eye in 1945 and refused to shake his hand, bluntly telling him, I don't shake hands with murderers. At least some good came out of this, in that the necrophiliac murderer in question died in extreme poverty begging for scraps, so some justice was served. And, I'm not joking. He literally did stick his finger into the queen's bat cave just for the sake of doing it. Just to put things in perspective, in China, even Mao Zedong didn't execute Henry Puyi, the boy emperor, the last emperor of China. What he did was he stuck him in some minimum wage bitch job, and then eventually he did become some kind of moderately important Communist Party functionaire in middle age. Yeah, Mao chose not to do that, specifically because he was horrified by the brutality of the Romanov murders. You gotta try really damn hard to not be so depraved that even Mao Zedong is like, maybe you should cool out a bit, guys. Speaking of Stalinist Russia, I'm sorry, I know Stalinism and Leninism are not the same things, but, whatever, it's a transition. In Russia, Vladimir Putin has revived a Stalin-era award, the Mother Heroine, for women who birth and raise 10 Russian citizens with a lump sum of 1 million rubles, awarded when your 10th child turns 1. In theory, I'm not inherently against such a thing. Uh, if Russia just minded its own business, I would not have a problem with them at all. And yeah, I'm aware that 1 million rubles is like $80,000, which isn't that much to have 10 children. But, it's the thought that counts. Okay, let's see. Got some comments here. Ponythroat says, come on, man, the commies only killed like 5 people. It'd only be weird if they started making a habit out of it. Well, let's see. There was the Tsar and the Tsarina. Then there was the 4 children. Was it 5 children? I don't know how many goddamn kids they had. Bless you, darling. She sneezed. Then they also killed the servant. And then they killed the dog, too. And that's just like, that's a goddamn step too far for me. Ponythroat then says, it would be really strange if they started making a habit out of it. Yes, it would be very strange if communists made a habit of senseless murder for its own sake. Ponythroat also says, commies are sexual degenerates. Perish the thought. Yeah, I know. Who could have imagined? Outlaw Otaku says, I played Gex 1 for the first time a few months back, and it was alright. Yes, as I will discuss a bit later, Gex was, on the better end of the, dutiful, mascots from the 90s. But that is an incredibly low bar when your opposition is things like Arrow the Acrobat, Zero the Kamikaze Squirrel, Glover, Rocky Rodent, Awesome Possum, Cool Spot, and the Chester Cheetah. Had a game. The 90s were. I love the 90s, but yeah, there was a lot of stupid shit. Yeah, not gonna lie, part of me does still kind of clings to that like wiggity wiggity 90s idea of what cool is, but that's just me being a severely mentally arrested man. But I digress. Yeah. Speaking of communism, let's leave Leninism behind, and we'll talk about the specifically American brand of communism we have going on today. I don't know what to call it. I don't know what to call it because the people who push this idiotic race and gender-based communism today are staggeringly unintelligent mediocrities who are not capable of coming up with an idea for a name for their movement. Their goal is to just hoover up as much money as they can and justify this by half-witted interpretations of Michel Foucault. Foucaultism, I guess we could call it. Anyway, a lot of completely random things were deemed to be racist this past week, like birdwatching. The Washington Post says birders grapple with a complicated past linked to slavery and white supremacy. Yes, slave owners were well known for watching and identifying birds. Let's not forget D.W. Griffith's racist cinematic masterpiece, The Birds of a Nation. I thought the worst thing about birding was that VCR board game about bird watching that almost drove the Spoonie one to like violent insanity. As if the Spoonie one wasn't on the verge of going insane to begin with at all times. I mean, it's been, 7 years and counting since he's made a video. But yes, I digress. Apparently, this controversy comes from the ornithologists who name birds. Some of those ornithologists might have been racist, like John Sligo, the English colonialist, and of course, John J. Audubon himself. John J. Audubon was a slave owner. Does that change the fact that he started the society that bears his name? What would you change the name to? And again, while some of the earliest ornithologists may have been slavers, does that mean that the entire pastime of looking at birds is somehow racist? I don't see why you couldn't put up some plaques or like book dedications explaining the problematic legacy and be done with it. Just like Princeton University did with Woodrow Wilson. Now, as I've said previously, I'm 100% behind every historical figure having their dirty laundry aired, and and I emphasize every historical figure, no matter the color, gender, religion, or creed. If that were done fairly, I would be down for it. Or we can just whine about bird watching or whatever. Yeah, I wonder if this ties into the rural racism thing I discussed previously, where people being upset at blasting loud music and littering is somehow racist. If you're blasting very, loud, bass heavy music, it's probably going to scare away the birds. Uh, the woman in question, who was the centerpiece of this article, uh, she's a black woman. I don't know if she was doing that sort of thing. I will assume she wasn't, because I like to give people the benefit of the doubt. But, admittedly, I can't help but feel that bird watching is like some incredibly like honky shit. Let's see, Ponythroat referring to, wiggity wiggity cartoon mascot says, don't forget Blinks the Time Sweeper. Well, the thing about Blinks is Blinks came out in like 2003, and I guess, while it is like a cartoon animal game, it's not it's not like a, mascot with attitude. At least not that I'm aware of. I never actually played Blinks. But yeah, there's a lot more. There's Croc, Legend of the Gobbos, uh, Dynamite Heady, which is a pencil. There's that Bug game, which is called Bug, which somehow got Steven Spielberg to endorse it. There's Toomba. There was a lot of, you know, cartoon animals given that like DreamWorks face. Like you can't see it, but it's like, like with the eyebrow going up. Okay, Shinseki Evans says the 80s are better than the 90s is better than the 21st century. Yeah, that's true. I mean, I feel like the stuff from the 80s does hold up a little better than the stuff in the 90s. But when the worst you can say about the 90s is that like everything was full of like day glow neon shorts and like wisecracking cartoon animals, it's a hell of a lot better than what we got now. Okay. Ponythroat says socialism and then almost drove Spoonie to madness. Well, yeah, Spoonie was never mentally stable, but those VCR board games didn't really help matters. Then, of course, he broke up with his girlfriend, then his other girlfriend, and yeah, then his brother shot that Mexican guy with a knife. Spoonie's brother's a cop, just FYI. I don't want to alarm anybody. It wasn't good. And, you know, Spoonie was legitimately my hero when I was a teenager. But those days are long gone. Shinseki Evans says, wasn't the original Karen some chick who called the cops on a black bird watcher? Yeah, probably. I don't know. There's a lot of stupid crap. Like, I can't remember, like, the 2 minutes hate du jour of whatever, like, mildly rude person called the cops on someone else. C Punk Messiah says, Cool Spot was cool, though. I never actually played Cool Spot. And I guess I was just kind of inherently turned off by the idea of like 7 Up making a game. But yes, I have heard it's actually pretty decent. Ponythroat names some more radical animal mascots: Jazz Jackrabbit, Earthworm Jim, Spyro. Well, those games were actually like, good, which again puts them a step higher than, Arrow the Acrobat or Glover. Oh, God, I wasted my youth. I'm kidding. My youth was awesome. Yeah. Anyway, back to inane American communism. You know what else is racist? Grammar. A UCLA professor was called a racist for, quote unquote, abusing a black student. He corrected his grammar and spelling mistakes on his homework. There was a protest organized. Students claim the professor has created a climate of hostility. Yes, I know this is not current, but it came up currently. Yes, it's incredibly racist to correct writing. Why would anybody want their teacher to correct writing? Yeah, also apparently, you know what else is racist? Advanced math classes. Yeah, because uh, a school board in Massachusetts had advanced math classes. too many Asian and white kids were in those classes, so they canceled it for the sake of equity. That's how you make a country great, by hamstringing the smart kids. And the educational system continues to go down the shitter. Yeah, I know, I'm really starting to come to the conclusion that somebody wants to deliberately dumb the country down. I don't know who it is or why they're doing it, but all this talk of detracking and not doing grades and the level of discourse I hear from the idiot students all seems a bit deliberate. Yeah, it's great having to remind my children to not get up and do their stupid TikTok dances. Like, sit down, funk master, it's time for science class. Well, for God's sake, there used to be a time when we had public intellectuals in this country and the general populace knew who they were. Like, Albert Einstein went on talk shows, so did Richard Feynman, Margaret Mead, Carl Sagan, Stephen Hawking, Robert Frost. They went on like Johnny Carson and stuff. None of that shit's going on now. Let's check out some comments. Okay. C-Punk Messiah says, at least you weren't a Jew Wario fan. That was tough for me because I love this content. Yeah, Jew Wario molesting those teenage girls was not a good move, pal. Yeah, the whole Channel Awesome fiasco has been discussed many times by much more popular YouTubers, so we're not going to get into that again. I mean, it's kind of funny that, like, Doug, the nostalgia critic, actually managed to survive more or less with his reputation intact, since, he didn't, like, diddle the children or go completely insane or bilk money out of people. I mean, by some accounts, he was just an asshole, but that's not a crime. Shinseki Evans says Poochie should have gotten his own game in the 90s. I mean, he basically did. Like, all of those characters are basically Poochies, if you think about it. And, yeah, speaking of the nostalgia critic, he actually discussed that episode of The Simpsons once, and he was right on the money with this. He said that was, like, one of the last Simpsons episodes that just, just picked a satirical target and just nailed it, like, right on the head. These, jive talking, cool guy mascots in the 90s that, like, just ruined everything. And for those of you who don't remember the Sonic the Hedgehog cartoon, the Saturn one, not the Adventures one, Sonic basically was Poochie in that cartoon. I mean, all I'm saying is the first time you see Sonic in the first episode, he literally, like, slides into frame playing an electric guitar, going wee wiggity wiggity wiggity. Like, I mean, Sonic was always a bit of a Poochie, let's be honest there, but they Poochified him to the max in that cartoon show. He needs to be a surfer. Give me a nice Shmira surfer there. Ponythroat says Doug was cringe, which is the worst crime of all. I mean, Doug Walker is a hack who... Okay, let me rephrase that. Doug Walker is a pretty good critic when he's just reviewing a movie. It's when he tries to act and do his stupid little skits. Like, that's when he gets annoying. I've always said that, and I stand by it. I do genuinely think he's pretty insightful when, he's reviewing the movie and criticizing the movie or the TV show or whatever. But please, for the love of God, Doug, do not ever do your goddamn skits. They're not funny. They have never been funny. Shinseki Evans says diversity is our strength. Yeah, thank you, Dan Quayle, for dropping that, brain fart on us. Ponythroat says, imagine a teacher replacing all the R's with L's in an Asian student's papers. We gotta replace the L's with R's too, sir. And then sometimes you could just put L's in random places, like they did in the Mr. Magoo cartoon. Anyway, it appears some racial justice is occurring. An armed dusky brethren who attacked a DC pub owner and threatened to shoot his 4-year-old son is offered a plea deal, and it's a 2-year sentence. Yep, you threatened to shoot a preschooler, and you got a mere 2 years in prison. Bravo, DC. Look, I know there's a long history of racism in this country, and I know that in many cases there were miscarriages of justice that occurred. I acknowledge that. But it's like you get these liberal do-gooder DAs who decide, it's their duty to counteract that history by going to a completely opposite extreme. And they give hardened felons these pussy softball sentences. I don't really think that's going to help matters either. I mean, you're going to see a lot more vigilante justice. And here's my radical idea: treat black people the same way you would treat anyone else, and that includes punishing them when they do bad things. Apparently, that's too difficult for some people to comprehend. It's much easier and much more righteous to allow them to stack up dozens of felony arrests, just catch and release, till they get murked on the subway by some ex-Marine when they're dancing around like Michael Jackson. Okay. Ponythroat says, how does one make so many concessions for minorities without eventually coming to the conclusion that it stems from biology? Judy Hopps was right. Yes, she was. Kidding. I'm going to take some more coffee. In all seriousness, I don't think it stems from biology so much as it stems from, basically subsidizing and legalizing crime out of some misplaced, do-gooder sentiment. I think that's what stimulates it more than anything else. I mean, I don't think there's any kind of crime gene or whatever. If you subsidize people to do stupid shit, they're gonna do it. And I don't think white people are immune to it at all. I mean, if you basically gave white people a carte blanche to slap shit around, I think they would. Okay. Now let's leave that unpleasantness behind. I want to talk about something more pleasant, like neoconservative lies and chicanery. I am absolutely dripping with sarcasm when I say that this is going to be more pleasant. So first of all, what happened this week? A couple days ago, it was apparently National Hot Dog Day. And you know what that means? Republican politicians have to hold their noses and pretend to be down with the people. Mitt Romney filmed a little video in which he discusses this totally not manufactured holiday whilst holding a hot dog. At no point in the video does he bite the hot dog or even bring the thing within a foot of his mouth. Yeah, as if Mittens would ever eat such plebeian food. Sausages made with offal? I should think not, sir. And again, to reference The Simpsons once more, it would literally be like that scene from The Simpsons where Krusty takes a bite out of the Krusty Burger, and it's like, and cut. He immediately spits it out and then gargles. It's like, oh God, I'm going to be tasting that for weeks. You know how I know Mitt Romney does not eat hot dogs on the regular? Because his hot dog has ketchup on it, and you don't put ketchup on a hot dog. Even Harry Callahan addressed this in Sudden Impact. Nobody, and I mean nobody, puts ketchup on a hot dog. Mustard is the base condiment, always. If you want a little bit of sweetness, you can put some relish on it if you want. Maybe some sauerkraut as well. Ketchup is for French fries, hash browns, and other potato derivatives. That is blasphemous to put ketchup on your goddamn hot dog. Okay. Shinseki Evans says culture is the problem, not race. I agree. Ponythroat says only Trump eats people food. Well, I mean, I think Trump goes to the opposite extreme. Like, Trump eats a lot of fast food, which I don't care for. I mean, I do eat hot dogs, but I don't eat garbage dogs. I eat, good hot dogs. I eat those Hebrew Nationals, because I have taste, damn you. I'm down with the people, but I still eat, good people food. I can't shake the feeling that the Romney family doesn't even call it ketchup. I bet they call it catsup. I mean, it's totally just a random hunch. But it feels like something he and his fellow super Mormons would do. And yes, I do refer to the Romneys as being super Mormons. Yeah, they literally go back to the beginning of Mormonism. They are beyond mere Mormons. I think they're dude bros with Brigham Young and his wives and stuff. So to refer to Mitt Romney as just a Mormon is it's like saying the ocean is a bit wet. Okay. Shinseki Evans says, I'm a reluctant Republican. Even I voted against Romney. That evil bastard makes children cry by killing Toys R Us, KB Toys, and he attempted to kill Big Bird. Yeah, I wasn't down with that. And again, maybe I just imagine him saying catsup because I subliminally perceive Mitt Romney as Mr. Burns. But yeah, there's a lot of talk about mustard we've been doing. In conclusion, yeah, you don't put ketchup on your hot dog. It's mustard. Yeah, all right, Dad. Let's talk about your amazing day. How many mustard jars did you fill? Oh boy. Speaking of the 90s. Anyway, in more serious news, the other neocons giving much more serious lies, beyond the lie that they ever eat hot dogs on a regular basis. Writer Tom Nichols, a big booster of the Iraq War in its early years, wrote an article in The Atlantic bluntly titled, Afghanistan is Your Fault. Yes, Afghanistan was my fault. I was a mere 10 years old when we went to war in Afghanistan. It was my fault. Yeah, fifth grade Larsen was in charge of society. Now, just to clarify, the neocons, as part of their fanatical Reagan worship, they take the credit for winning the Cold War, which they didn't, considering that by the time neoconservatism even existed as a political philosophy, the Soviet Union was basically dying, well on its way to being bled dry in Afghanistan. So, yeah, they didn't do crap. And then, when they got us involved in two bullshit wars, they throw up their hands and go blip, it's your fault. Thanks, neocon brain trust. And these are the same people who want us to go to war with Russia, which, as I've stated previously, I might be down for if and only if those same people were immediately drafted into frontline combat infantry roles. I mean, I would die too, but seeing Tom Nichols or Bill Crystal or Ben Shapiro getting murked first, I could die happy knowing that happened. And now we shall go to popular culture news and general Twitter silliness. First of all, Florida opens up its first dog water park with a full bar, presumably for the people, not the dogs, although dogs do like beer, and I've learned that from experience. Why are there dog water parks? I don't know. And also, I know life in modern America is pretty damn dismal, but do we have to drink while we're doing literally anything? Say, I'm going to go to this place and let my dog play. I'm gonna have a couple of double vodkas. Uh, I mean, I like the occasional drink myself, but might I posit that if you're taking your dog out for a bit of air and sunshine, you shouldn't be drinking? I mean, especially if, you're one of these pit moms and, little Fluffy goes on a violent rampage. Oh, not now, Fluffy. I'm too drunk. And speak of the devil, Shinseki Evans says pit bulls will ruin the dog liquor park. I mean, I'm curious. Would a pit bull be more docile if it was drunk, or would it get more violent? I mean, my experience with dog drinking is that I gave a little dachshund a little bit of beer, and she was lapping it up pretty good. Her name was Lulu. It was my dad's friend. My dad's friend's wife had a dog, and we were just kind of watching it for the day, and I gave it a little beer, and she seemed to like it okay. It didn't seem to affect her all that much. I don't know, maybe alcohol doesn't affect dogs. Like, I know that LSD does not affect dolphins. But, yeah, I feel like, pit mommies and pit bulls are going to ruin the dog liquor bar park. Okay, Ponythroat says Ben Shapiro gets schooled by a caliber missile. Yeah, I'm curious as to why Ben Shapiro didn't join the army. I mean, he was 19 years old and he was first starting to make a name for himself in the early days of the Iraq War. Curiously, he did not join the army. I wonder why. But yes, in popular culture news, unless I can find something else interesting on the Twitters, I cannot at the moment. Yes, we come to our title story. The title story is that for no particular reason, Gex the Gecko is coming back. Because the Bubsy and Rocket Knight reboots was just so damn successful, weren't they? Yes, I know I explained this, but I'm going to explain it again for those coming in. For those of you not aware, Gex was one of many, fucking radical, bam, 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 wiggity, wiggity video game mascot characters that came around in the 90s trying to ape the success of Sonic the Hedgehog. Most of them sucked because whilst Sonic had some, shit-eating attitude, he also, had some good video games, which most of his copycats did not have. And that's why nobody's resurrecting Awesome Possum or Rocky Rodent or, it's trying to think of one that I didn't name. Oh, there was Socks the Cat Rocks the House, which never got officially released, but that was a game about Bill Clinton's pet cat. And on the cover, he's fucking radical. He's got that like eyebrow raising. He's coming out of Bill's saxophone. Let's see. Yeah, there's Croc, Toomba. Oh, what the hell with it? I'm going to look up the TV Tropes article about mascots with attitude. I was hoping I could remember them, and I had a good run. But, let's see what else we got. Okay. Oh, yeah, Avoid the Noid. I wouldn't consider Bonk to be one. Bonk was cool. Okay, there's a Bug, Chester Cheetah, Cool Spot. Okay. James Pond, Jazz Jackrabbit. Mr. Nuts, some kind of, shit-talking squirrel. Okay, Punky Skunk, Radical Rex. No, Rystar was not a mascot with attitude. Okay. Oh yeah, Wally Bear in the No Game. Wild Woody. Is that Pencil? Yeah, just like any other form of media, video games, once somebody hooks onto a good thing, everybody tries to copy it. And most of them don't do it successfully. Yeah. Ponythroat says, Ben Shapiro's ethnicity is the one that profits from the war, not the ones who fight it. That's debatable. In all honesty, I think Iran probably benefited more from the Iraq war than Israel did. Shinseki Evans says in Japan they would minimize the attitude to make them cute in those games. Yes, to an extent. What else do we have? Oh God, Quirk, that tomato with the mohawk. Yeah, we can't forget him. We did forget him because that stupid Power Team cartoon. Now, with that being said, as much fun as I make about, radical cartoon animals, I will vouch the hell out of the original Rocket Knight games. I didn't play that new one because I heard it sucked. But yeah, like the dutiful mascots died for a very good reason. And that's probably why Rocket Knight was good, because he wasn't, wiggity wiggity cool guy. Rocket Knight expressed this sort of Brandywine-ish, boyish chivalry and thus forced its own path. And yeah, I'm declaring it now. I'm using the term Brandywine to refer to like boyish chivalry and adventurism that characterizes America at its best. Yep, mixing meaningful cultural commentary with silly cartoon mascots. Uh, yeah, so with regards to Gex, Gex was one of the better ones for what little that's worth because he was a bit different. He wasn't some, extreme 90s serial mascot. He was like this, I don't know how to put it. He was this kind of like Garfield ish, like Gen X, TV addicted wise ass, which is slightly better, I suppose. Anyway, speaking of cartoon mascots, the other day I was talking to my wife about how the original Chuck E. Cheese mascot looked like a mid level mafia enforcer. She was not familiar with the franchise. And I was like, I think that's more timeless than, turning into some wiggity wiggity, cool guy. Kids want to be intimidated by large, angry, cigar smoking rats. Don't you agree? Yes. Okay. Ponythroat asks Brandywine, the river by the Shire. Well, I mean, I was actually referring to the Brandywine School of Illustration, which was used to um, illustrate many, like, kind of Edgar Rice Burroughs stories and other, like, Pulp Fiction works. Yeah, this is sort of like, where Andrew Wyeth and N.C. Wyeth came out of. Howard Pyle would become known as the father of American illustration. Yeah, it's like that sort of, Winsor McCay kind of like World War One recruitment poster look. Yeah, it's for what it's worth, that is a distinctly American school of illustration, and I'm actually going to start using it as an adjective now. I will force the hell out of this meme. Punk Messiah says, I had an idea for a boxing wizard squirrel game character. Now I just need to learn game design. Yes, I hope to see that. Believe me, I mean, it would hardly be the worst, like, cartoon squirrel video game. Believe me. Yeah. Shinseki Evans says, I love Chuck E. Cheese as an 80s kid. It's sad what they did to it. Gutted its soul. Yeah, I agree. Like, he's got to go back to, like, being the cigar smoking, like, vest wearing, angry bowler hat rodent. But yes, speaking of these childish things, let's leave the video behind and let's talk about children's literature. The Roald Dahl Museum in wherever United Kingdom is grappling with Roald Dahl's undeniable racism, which he certainly had to an extent, let's not deny that. But I'm curious, does anybody else fetishize cutting down their cultural heroes down like European people do? The Twitter thread asks, do Chinese or Arabs or Persians cut down their cultural heroes? Well, actually, yes, in living memory, the Chinese government did destroy their traditional culture and heritage quite violently. And the fact that we're doing the same thing is a great sign. Okay, and finally, in pop culture news, the movie The Sound of Freedom came out and it's quite popular, grossing more than $100 million on a $14 million budget. It's based on a true story about a journalist who exposed a series of sex traffickers who specialize in trafficking the children. And wow, it's really making the journalist mad. I'm curious as to why they would be so angry about such a thing. One wonders. They're throwing up these ridiculous ideas about how, like, oh, this movie is actually going to cause more sex trafficking. How? I don't know. I mean, I don't want to jump to a conclusion and just assume that all these journalists, they like diddling children. But, perhaps. Something just came up. Ouija's posting L's. Warm winter wishes to our cruise dispatch and equipment shops. We would like to thank you for all you do to keep our roads safe. A couple of packs of hot chocolate powder. Yeah, no money, no time off. Here's some hot chocolate, Ouija. See what else we got. I think that's about it. So if you have anything else to say it now. I'm going to kick back for a little bit and let you say your last pieces.